My husband considered it stealing when I sold his expensive watch to pay for our son's procedure. AITA. My 6-year-old son has been struggling with a medical issue for a while now, and it got to the point where the doctors told us he needed a procedure. They stressed that it should be done as soon as possible, but the problem is, we didn't have the money for it. My husband hasn't worked in about 9 months. He left his last job voluntarily and, despite my constant urging, hasn't found anything since. Meanwhile, I've been the one holding down a job and paying for all the household expenses, but my salary alone barely keeps us afloat. Savings? We don't have any. Here's where it gets frustrating. Before he quit his job, my husband used to make a lot of money, and instead of putting some away for emergencies or saving for the future, he spent most of it on expensive things for himself. Over the years, he sold off a lot of his luxury items to get by, whether it was to buy new clothes or upgrade his phone. The one thing he refused to part with was a fancy wristwatch that he claimed he was saving for special occasions. When it became clear we needed money for our son's procedure, I brought up the watch, suggesting that he sell it so we could pay for the surgery. His response? A flat-out refusal. He told me I needed to find another way to come up with the money. He even suggested we just keep our son on pain meds to manage his discomfort while we waited for me to miraculously scrape together the funds. But here's the thing. The meds weren't solving the problem, and the longer we waited, the worse my son's condition could get. I couldn't stand watching him suffer, knowing that there was a solution right in front of us. So, after days of trying to reason with my husband, I made a tough decision. I sold the watch and used the money to cover the cost of the procedure. When my husband found out, he didn't explode in anger or scream at me like I'd expected. Instead, he just kept repeating that what I'd done was stealing. He said he couldn't believe I would betray him like that and that I had crossed a line by selling something that belonged to him without his permission. His words really stung because he didn't raise his voice, but I could tell he was hurt. He's barely spoken to me since, aside from calling me a thief, and he seems to be completely fixated on the idea that I stole from him. To make matters worse, his family has jumped in on the situation, and of course, they've sided with him. His mom, who's never been my biggest fan, suggested that he should either divorce me or at least get a lockbox for his valuables since, according to her, I've shown that I can't be trusted. Her words made me feel like I'd done something awful, even though all I was trying to do was help my son. I honestly thought I was doing the right thing by prioritizing my child's health. But now, my husband's reaction, along with the way his family has treated me, has me questioning everything. Was it really stealing? Should I have waited longer, even if it meant my son continued to suffer? AITA for making that decision without his approval, or was I just doing what any parent would do in that situation?